Today on Total Maine, abortion rights under Trump. What concerns are Maine patients sharing with providers? We're hearing directly from one of those doctors. And we're speaking with the incoming executive director of the Christian Civic League of Maine, what their advocacy looks like in this legislative session. Plus, lessons learned. We go in the arena. Our expert panel looks at this year in politics. Well, hello and welcome to Total Maine here on this last Sunday before Christmas. Thank you for joining us. I'm Terry Stackhouse. On today's show, we're taking a closer look at the future of reproductive health care and abortion rights in Maine. While President-elect Trump has pledged to veto any federal abortion ban, abortion rights advocates fear the incoming administration could roll back access to things like birth control and other forms of contraception. It comes as Planned Parenthood and Maine Family Planning are expected to ask the state legislature for an additional $6 million in funding for non-abortion services. That's something one group is already pushing back on. You interact directly with patients. What types of concerns, if any, are they sharing with you about the incoming presidential administration?
Our patients are anxious. They are requesting more visits for things like vasectomies and long-acting birth control, so things like IUDs and implants. In just the first 4 weeks after the election, we've seen a huge increase in those visits for patients that have been coming in.
Andrea Pelletier is the medical director for Planned Parenthood of Northern New England. She's also a physician. We spoke inside the group's health center in downtown Portland. When those patients express these concerns and these worries, what does that sound like?
I think they first bring it up hoping that I'll know what's going to happen. And they'll ask that, like, so what does this mean? What does this mean going forward? What does this mean for my ability to, get care down the road? And I think it's discouraging to them that I don't know the answers.
Citing increased costs to provide services, low insurance reimbursement rates, and fears that the Trump administration could limit federal funding, Planned Parenthood of Northern New England and Maine Family Planning are expected to ask the state legislature for $6 million in funding for non-abortion services.
Planned Parenthood and their allies just poured millions, into the hundreds of millions of dollars into campaigns over the last couple of cycles, both candidate campaigns and referendum and constitutional amendment campaigns. And now they're asking the Maine taxpayers to foot the bill to the tune of $6 million to quote, cover their costs. To me, the audacity is just staggering.
Nick Adolphson is the incoming executive director of the Christian Civic League of Maine, a leading opponent of abortion rights. He officially takes over the role in January. Fighting this funding request during the legislative session, he says, is a top priority.
In this world, the money becomes fungible pretty fast. If they're raising money into that action fund, if they wanted to raise money into their healthcare fund instead, they certainly could have requested that from donors. That to me is, we've chosen to prioritize politics over the healthcare.
According to data from Planned Parenthood of Northern New England, in the week after the election, Maine health centers saw an 84% spike in long-acting reversible contraceptive appointments, a jump from an average of 26 appointments per week before the election to 48 immediately afterwards.
It is hard that this is there's something that's unrelated to medicine that's going to affect potentially their care. And that feels really hard that politics plays a role in what's happening in our exam room.
In addition to advocating against the funding proposal, Adolphson also wants to roll back the law signed by Governor Mills last year, which makes it legal in Maine to terminate a pregnancy after 24 weeks, when a fetus is generally considered viable, but only when a doctor deems abortion medically necessary.
I think we have this mistaken impression that because we pass such left-wing legislation, that's where Mainers are, and it just isn't. The Maine legislature has a Democrat majority, but it's not a big one. It's not California, it's not New York, where they are completely dominant. And so I want Mainers' voices to be heard in those conversations this session.
We're open. We're not going anywhere. We're planning to stay here. It's hard not to be worried with them because we're also worried for them. But we are just trying to reassure them that we're not planning on going anywhere, and we want to be able to provide them the care that they need to be happy and healthy and live the life that they want to live.
All right, we are in the arena here on this Sunday, and the topic I first want to get your opinion on here, as the legislature reconvenes after the holiday break, this could be a really big debate. As we understand it, Planned Parenthood and Maine Family Planning, they are planning to ask the state legislature for an additional $6 million. Money would not necessarily be used for abortion services, but other things that they provide, and likely going to be a contentious debate in Augusta.
Yeah, Ethan, it's always a hot button issue. Democrats, however, are in charge and tend to favor more services like this.
Yeah, certainly, and Janet Mills has certainly made it a priority. One of the big steps the legislature took under Democrats is actually to protect abortion rights. And look, Planned Parenthood's an organization that's invaluable to making sure that family planning services are available. I would hope that both sides of the aisle could agree that, look, trying to make sure that women's health is front and center, preventing unwanted pregnancies, et cetera, which is what this money would go to. I hope everybody steps up and support it. They certainly need it.
And that's a clear distinction, right? That this money would not be for abortion services,
Right.
but rather other medical and family planning issues, Phil.
Yes.
Is that a little easier for Republicans to perhaps go along with?
Yeah, but I think what's going to be fascinating, Terry, is to follow the debate in the legislature, because there are other competing programs that are just as vulnerable. I think of child protection services. I think of some of the Medicaid services for children with psychiatric problems. They're going to be in front of the legislature saying, hey, we're in dire financial situation here. And I think Planned Parenthood is going to have an explanation as to why they used resources to advocate during the election that they don't have now for services.
And we did ask the Christian Civic League about that. I mean, they fundraise through their action fund, and the political spending is used on that, but this would be directly for the medical services. What do you think?
Well, I mean, it would be nice if they didn't have to do advocacy, if the legislature would simply say, let's make women's health a priority and just make sure they get the funding. But groups like the Christian Civic League are out there fighting them, so they have to spend some money on advocacy.
Well, we're on the topic of...
The governor has promised a lean budget as well.
Right.
Oh,
keep
you have
in
that
mind.
on top of it all.
Yeah,
Well, if we just raise taxes on the rich, we'll be all right.
there we go.
And while we're on the topic of spending and campaign spending, we knew that there was going to be a legal challenge to this, the cap that voters approved, $5,000, and now we know what it is. The GOP group is pushing back against this.
Yeah, Phil, and maybe some political risk to Republicans to say something that 75% of Mainers said they want, this cap of $5,000 on political action committee contributions, and say, no, we want to overturn this. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it is a calculated risk, but there are times when in public service you've got to have the distinction between law and what the Constitution says, and that's what they're challenging. So are they taking a political risk? Yes. Is it one of principle about whether this is constitutional? It is. And I'm surprised also that they didn't go into state court. They've gone directly into federal court to challenge the Citizens United.
Yeah, I mean, the state constitution clearly doesn't block something like this. That's why they don't go to state court. Our constitution would allow it. But, of course this is a risk. They're not challenging this law from some highfalutin ivory tower constitutional debate. They're challenging this law because they disagree with the law when 75% of Maine people do. So I think the Republican Party is taking a big risk to go against Maine people in this way. If I had been in the Republican Party, I would have said, look, let somebody else take this lawsuit. Somebody from some other state who wants to challenge us, find a couple constituents. But for Maine Republican Party to be this out front against 75%, bad idea.
It's almost the end of 2024. We're talking about political lessons learned. Republicans, they really made a fight of it, trying to pick up seats in the state legislature. Democrats have been in control, also the executive branch for many, many years. Any takeaways from that?
Well, they tried a new approach this year,
Yeah.
Ethan, and that is to target their spending to the most winnable districts.
Yeah, it's hard to say it was a mistake, a lesson learned not to do it again. I mean, what they did is they put money into a specific 20 races in the House to try to get that body back. They came close. They got to 73 seats. They needed 76. So you got to give them some credit. But look, I mean, the Republican Party has not had a majority of both bodies, has only had a majority of the House once in the last 50 years. So I think they do need to sit back and look pretty hard in the mirror and figure out a whole new way, mostly I would say around how they govern and the policies they're putting forward. It's not working for Maine people.
I think it worked somewhat in the House. The numbers are so much closer in the Senate, not so much. But I like the idea of taking limited resources, focusing on candidates who have the capacity and the capability to win, and direct those resources there. I think the Republicans have got to start now, literally now, as we go through this next budget cycle in the State House, to communicate with citizens about where their government is going and how much it costs and what they can do as Republicans.
All right, so this is it for In the Arena for this year.
Yeah.
And the whole back catalog is on our website, WMTW.com. This
Listen
is
to
a
our
great
greatest
recap.
hits.
You can, yeah. It's always great to go
misses.
back and listen.
Greatest hits and misses.
It's good education for sure. You can also listen wherever you get your podcasts. Guys, thanks for everything this year.
Our
Thanks.
pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Still ahead on this edition of Total Maine, as you check out the holiday lights displays, you may see some unique Christmas trees in honor of a young man from Wells. Bonnie Bishop explains the meaning behind Trent's trees and how you can get involved in their cause too. And drone sightings across the eastern seaboard have some communities concerned. Jackie Mundry examines drone laws here in Maine and what you need to know to stay safe. Total Maine is back right after this. Sights and sounds. Our photojournalist Izzy Allers catching these two beautiful bald eagles in Yarmouth. Thanks to conservation efforts, more and more of our national bird can be seen in southern Maine. So keep an eye out. Bald eagles are common sights around Maine's lakes, rivers, and coastal communities. It has been 1 year now since flooding ravaged parts of central and western Maine. It was a slow-moving rainstorm, leaving 400,000 people without power for days. 4 people died as a result of that storm. Lewiston's Veterans Memorial Park was battered as well. Stones, benches toppled, the artillery cannon and World War II era Jeep nearly swallowed up. It took 6 months to restore the park, and now a year later, Jim Keithley examines if any lessons have been learned from this storm.
The powerful storm brought heavy rain and high winds to much of the state, western and central Maine bearing the brunt of the storm and the damage left in its path. Rain and melting snow flooding rivers and streams. High water from the Swift River, which separates the towns of Rumford and Mexico, claimed 2 lives. A pickup truck with 4 people inside swept away by the raging waters. A grandmother, 61-year-old Judy Richards, and her 20-year-old granddaughter, Sierra Cooper, died. 2 men in the vehicle were able to swim to safety. Police said Richards drove around barricades that were set up to keep drivers out. There were 2 other deaths that day. 40-year-old Troy Olson of Wyndham was home when a tree crashed through the roof of his house. Police said he was outside trying to cover the hole when another piece of the pine tree struck and killed him. 77-year-old William Tanner of Fairfield also hit by a falling tree limb. The winds were so strong, power was knocked out to more than 400,000 Mainers. It took days before electricity was restored. Repair crews, not able to get up in the bucket trucks because the winds were so strong, 60 miles an hour, reported at the height of the storm. The high temperature hit 59 degrees in Portland. It was the highest ever recorded in the city for December 18th.
Warmer temperatures, more evaporation, really more energy in the atmosphere and more moisture in the atmosphere, leading to these much larger downpours. And then we had that really cold.
University of New England climatologist Cameron Wake says warm temperatures helped shape this storm.
For me, it was really an example of what we need to expect for the future.
Why is that?
Well, because our climate's changing. Our climate's changing because human activities are dumping lots of greenhouse gas into the atmosphere. And so that's heating the planet, and that's really supercharging our weather systems.
Power crews have been working around the clock for days, going street by street. For 2 sisters in the town of Jay, an early Christmas gift. We were there when the power came back.
Merry Christmas! Thank you! It was great. We've been waiting patiently, but
3 days,
yeah.
And now you have your power.
Yes, thank God.
What's the first thing you're going to do?
I'm going to shower.
And then who could forget this? A floating casket. This video sent to us from viewer Tracy Grondin. Turned out the casket was a time capsule buried at the Veterans Memorial. Inside, war memorabilia. Neither the casket nor its contents have ever been found.
That was Jim Keithley reporting for us there. President Biden declared the storm a federal disaster with damage estimates in the tens of millions of dollars. Some towns are still waiting for that money. The town of Mexico borrowed Rumford's rescue boat, but thanks to a grant from the Stephen and Tabitha King Foundation, they'll get their own this coming spring. The Federal Aviation Administration has temporarily banned the flying of drones over certain parts of New Jersey. This comes after reports of suspicious drone activity there over the last few weeks. But what are the rules governing the flying of drones in Maine and in the United States more broadly? Jackie Mundry is looking into those regulations.
If a drone weighs more than half a pound, it needs to be registered with the Federal Aviation Administration. And the person flying the drone needs to pass a safety test if you're flying the drone for profit.
You can fly either way. You just have to, if you're monetizing any of the things that you're doing with these aircraft, you do need to be a certified commercial drone pilot.
Daniel Leclerc teaches commercial drone pilot classes through the Humane system. He says people are likely seeing more drones at night because it's only been legal to fly drones at night for about a year and a half.
The rules have been evolving over time in the 8 years since we've had a commercial drone program in the United States.
Those rules will likely continue to evolve as drones become more popular. But in order to fly a drone at night, your drone needs to have lights on it. Many drones have strobe lights, which is similar to what airplanes have, making it hard to decipher just how large the drone is.
Now it's perfectly legal to fly a drone at night as long as you stay, below 400 feet. And you don't fly in any restricted airspace.
If you think you see a drone, there are a few things you can do. First, you can go to flightaware.com to see if it's an airplane. If it's not a plane, you can check the Remote ID drone app to see if it's a drone. If it's neither, you can call your local law enforcement and ask them to report it to the Federal Aviation Administration. For Maine's Total Coverage, I'm Jackie Mundry.
Christmas may now be a few days away, but it's not a happy time for everyone. A study from the National Alliance on Mental Illness shows 64% of people who live with a mental illness say the holidays makes their symptoms worse. But as Bonnie Bishop showed us, a Wells family is helping remind people that they are not alone this holiday season.
We are at one of 15 trees that will stand tall for over a month in order to raise awareness for suicide prevention. Now here in Ogunquit, people are already leaving ornaments on the tree, either for themselves or someone they love. And the ornaments are special because they're unique to each and every person that these people are thinking of.
Trent's trees honor Trent Gibson, who died by suicide 2 years ago when he was 18.
He was super, super polite and kind.
Christmas of 2022 marked the first year without Trent for the holidays. His mom, Angela Witten, says she wanted a tree to keep him included even after he died. That idea evolved into something more.
It kind of grew from being just a tree to memorialize Trent to memorializing others that we've lost.
It continued to grow after its first year with 1 tree, to 7 by the next year, and now to 15 trees this year.
You think about all those trees and all those conversations and all those people that are dealing with the grief and thinking about their mental health.
It's all a part of Stay for Life, a nonprofit that Trent's mom and stepdad, Donald Witten, helped create after Trent's death.
And I wish he stayed. I wish he had reached out for help.
When it happens to you and nobody ever thinks it will, you realize this can happen to anybody.
From Presque Isle all the way down to New Hampshire, each tree dons teal and purple lights, the 2 colors associated with suicide prevention awareness.
You'll see ornaments that people bring from home that are really, really special and mean a lot to them for some reason that's only known to them.
Trent's family says the trees will return next holiday season with potentially even more across the state. In Ogunquit, I'm Bonnie Bishop for Total Maine.
If you or someone you know is struggling, looking for support this holiday season or any time, the National Suicide Prevention Crisis Lifeline, they're a call or text away at 988. That number is staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Still ahead, one of Maine's most prominent citizens getting a national monument in her honor. Nora Hogan takes us to the Francis Perkins Homestead in Newcastle. That's when Total Maine returns. Stay with us.
Good morning. Good morning.
You're watching video there from last winter with Michael Freilich and his beloved horse, Sierra. Trotting through the powder of a winter's morning, Tragically, Michael passed away over the summer from cancer, but his visits with Sarah around the neighborhood, his infectious joy of life and dedication to his community will always be lovingly remembered in the New Gloucester community. Kevin Fowler capturing those images for us there. A history-making Mater is now honored with a new national monument. Frances Perkins was the first woman to serve in a presidential cabinet as President Franklin Roosevelt's labor secretary. She was the driving force behind Social Security, the 40-hour work week, and helping end child labor. President Biden designating the Frances Perkins homestead as a new national monument. Nora Hogan has more on Perkins' legacy from Newcastle.
Frances Perkins served as Secretary of Labor under President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. This recognizes her as one of our country's most influential public servants and also ensures that her home will be preserved for generations to come.
We knew that we wanted this place to be around long after all of us.
After cutting her teeth as a social worker, Perkins became a trusted advisor to FDR and ultimately helped shape the New Deal. Historians say we have her to thank for the 40-hour work week, minimum wage, Social Security, and workplace safety laws.
Frances Perkins really spearheaded and really kind of changed the way that we think about, workers and their relationship to the federal government.
The Frances Perkins homestead is now one of 433 national parks.
I'm so thrilled that more people will know her story. But for Mainers, it's really a moment of pride.
It was selected as part of an initiative to identify sites that celebrate women who've made powerful contributions to American history.
So someone like Frances Perkins, who could be so prominent, is mostly overlooked or has been mostly overlooked. And so I think this designation will be a huge step in kind of bringing attention and spotlighting the great work that she's done beyond Maine.
Just 3% of our country's national parks are dedicated to women's contributions to U.S. history. Perkins joins the likes of Harriet Tubman and Clara Barton. Reporting in Newcastle, I'm Nora Hogan for Maine's Total Coverage.
And that is all for us on Total Maine here on this Sunday. I'm Terry Stackhouse. We thank you so much for spending part of your weekend here. We hope that you have a great Christmas, whichever holiday that you choose to celebrate this winter. Going to leave you with our Sky 8 drone, giving us the sights over the Androscoggin River in Lewiston and Auburn. We'll see you right back here next week for another edition of Total Maine. Have a great rest of your weekend.